Morning, everybody. I want to start just by a show of hands. Does anyone know what the BISAC merchandising themes are? Okay, good number. Does anyone use them in their company? Handful. Oh, that was my slide. Okay, well, today we're going to go into what the BISAC merchandising themes are. They have three of the most impactful values of the merchandising themes are: one, they improve discoverability for customers, they optimize book sales, and they allow you to group together books that have differing subjects but a common interest, so a common theme. The merchandising themes could denote an audience, which titles may have a particular interest, such as teen interest or Christian interest. They could denote a time of year for which a work is especially appropriate, maybe Earth Day or the Super Bowl. Or they could be for a frequently requested topic, maybe banned books or books by people in social media personalities. So you can tie those all together. So an example is, Memorial Day is just around the corner. So say you're a library or a bookstore, an online retailer, and you want to pull together a display or a page of books related to Memorial Day. So you can look up books with any of these headings from all across the BISAC list, from nonfiction adult, fiction adult, the juvenile headings, the young adult headings, and you can pull books together with those subjects under a common merchandising theme, perhaps Memorial Day. And that would help users find books which are of interest to them without looking, oh, I want biography, or, they might find something when they thought they wanted history. Or say you wanted to gather books together about entertainment awards. You can use the entertainment award merchandising theme to pull together books, Inside Out by Demi Moore, because she was a nominee, Bob Dylan, No Direction Home, because there was a movie about him, Conclave, which was adapted into a movie, a very timely movie, you should watch it. Perhaps Who is Ariana Grande? That's a juvenile title on a nominee. Maybe 80 Years of Oscar, which is about the awards themselves. So all of those books would have different subject codes, but the merchandising themes allow you to pull them together by a common theme. And if you're not familiar with the merchandising themes, they can be found on the BISG website, right under BISAC. The format of the codes is that they're 5-character alphanumeric code. We have 5 top-level themes: cultural heritage, event, holiday, publisher type, and topical. And there's some examples of the merchandising themes from different sections, although, yeah, that looks right. So that's our cultural heritage, holiday, topical, and event sections, just little pieces from those. The history of the merchandising themes is that the version 1.0 was released in March of 1999. There were 90 themes at the time. The sections were ethnic, event, holiday, regional, and topical. And in 2005, for version 2, there was a major overhaul of the themes, and it dropped to 70 themes because we created the BISAC regional codes and took out the regions. And we had the categories: cultural, heritage, event, holiday, and topical. And today, we release a new version of the merchandising themes with every new edition of the BISAC subject list. Right now, there's 132 themes, so we've grown quite a lot since 2005. We have cultural heritage, we have 41 headings. Events, we have 31. Holidays, 35. Publisher type, 3. And topical, we have 22. And that's how each section has grown over the past 20 years. So today, we're going to talk about merchandising themes a little more, and I'm lucky to have two members of the Subject Code Committee with me. I'd like to introduce, I'll have them tell a little about themselves. Michael Olnick and Geraldine Zeffrin.
I'll talk for myself.
Come over here. Michael, do you want to start
Oh,
by
okay.
talking a little?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was letting you go first.
That's okay.
My name is Michael Olnick. I've been on the subject committee, I guess also about 30 years, maybe 32. I'll give myself a couple of extra years. I also chair the committee that does the BISAC to THEMA mapping, which I know everyone is waiting for. It's almost done. I'm going to say May. So, you know, we will have it very soon. I will share a story to Phil's point about fixing things before they actually break. I had a thermostat that kept falling off the wall. It's one of those ones that had prongs on the back of it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know, I could just keep taping it back onto the wall. I don't have to get a new thermostat. And I would wake up in the morning and it was cold, and I'm like, why is it cold? Because the tape was not sticking to the wall. And finally, I got a new thermostat. It's so much better. Oh my God. So now I just need a new phone and a new car, and I'll be okay. But anyway, it was a good point. We should fix things before they totally break, if possible.
Geraldine?
Hi, I'm Geraldine Zeffrin. I've been with BISG. I consider myself a newbie compared to how many years you've been on with us. However, I have been dealing with data for a very long time. Laura Dawson, who spoke earlier this morning, she hired me several decades ago. And I've been working with data ever since. And here I am again talking about data, and we'll be asking you, encouraging you very, very soon to send us more data.
Great, thank you guys. So Geraldine, the Barnes & Noble has recently started incorporating the merchandising themes. How's that been working out? And did you create a database in your field for them? Are they customer facing?
Well, last year, when we sat and chat about merchandising theme, at BNN, we were just starting the process. We had to go, yes, create a new field for the data, and the biggest thing is to spread the word, to let the industry know that it's like, we have this information, we can store it in the database, and please send it. I know it's a chicken and egg scenario, but as some of our panelists earlier today spoke about, things have to be done in increments. But I can say between last year and this, we're starting to see numbers come in from the industry of BISAC merchandising themes. Is it where we need it to be? Not yet, but we're getting there.
Great, thank you. Michael, can you describe the benefits of using the merchandising themes over having multiple new subjects headings created in the code list?
Sure. The BISAC subject list strives to be an inclusive list, but by the very nature of creating a list, it's going to be exclusive. Unless you're creating a list of things that have a finite amount of members, like state capitals or elements, something is going to be left off. So if you have a top 100 list or a top 500 or a top 5,727 list, naturally there are things you won't be able to include. So the list is, we try to keep it a manageable size and try to have codes that are going to get a reasonable amount of usage. So we're not the Library of Congress list, it's not Dewey. It's a list that's meant to be picked up, not to have a steep learning curve. You don't have to have a degree to use it. You should look it over, don't just plunge in before you start using it, but mostly it's user-friendly, we think. And usually it's pretty straightforward when we add new subjects. We just added, in art, we added some art movements, and we just asked members of the committee to get counts from their database or from their sales or of books they were going to publish as to which movements they thought would be best represented. And we ended up with like 10 codes, and there's certainly more than 10 art movements, but we had to select, at least as a start, 10 codes. So we added pop art, but we did not add op art. And, I'm pretty sure, Connie, we have not had any complaints from any op artists? No. So, no one has said, well, where's the op art? Well, you have this one, you don't have that one. But, of course, it's a little trickier when you're dealing with codes that represent groups of people. And in some sections, like health and fitness, we do have codes for groups of people. Asian American and Pacific Islander, African American and Black, Hispanic and Latino and Indigenous, but we don't have codes for every possible group of people. In fiction, we have a similar setup, and some of the groups have codes, subheadings, or trees, as we like to call them. And so under Hispanic and Latino, there might be horror. Under African American and Black, they might be mystery and detective. Most of the codes are generic codes representing, fantasy or science fiction. Sometimes the codes are specific to the group, like indigenous futurism. But the problem is there are many groups that could be represented, but what happens is if we start adding groups, it ends up being a multiplicative effect. I said it right, multiplicative. So it's not just health and fitness and fiction, but these kind of codes are in several different sections. So what'll happen is there's a group that wants to be represented, and it's not just adding it in one place, it's adding it in many places. And if we add it in fiction, sometimes it's adding 4 or 5 other codes beside that. For example, if we add something in juvenile fiction, we tend to add it in juvenile nonfiction and young adult fiction and young adult nonfiction.
And sorry, Michael, sometimes the trees, if somebody sees that African American and Black has 10 headings under fiction, they think that another group should have the same exact 10 headings, even though there's no books under all of those headings.
Yeah, it's a tough, we're trying to keep it manageable size, but we also are recognizing that we're trying to include as much as we can. So that's where, the merchandising themes come in, hopefully, to help alleviate the concerns of keeping something manageable and also being inclusive. You can assign a fiction subject for, say, science fiction adventure, and if the protagonist is Polish, you can add, cultural heritage Polish. And so it creates a way of coming up with a lot of combinations that don't necessarily have to be added as subjects. And to your point, the chicken and egg point, the discussions a lot of times are very circular in the committee. Someone will want a subject, and someone will say, but that's really a subject, but you can add a merchandising theme to it. You don't have to add it as a subject. And then the other point is no one uses merchandising themes. So you need to add it as a subject because no one's going to add a fiction code and add a merchandising theme. So we need to get to a certain level of usage in the merchandising theme so that the subjects could maybe concentrate on adding more specific codes under, like the art movements codes, where it's really a unique kind of thing we're trying to get at. So, I don't know. Don't be chicken.
Yeah, don't be chicken.
Right.
And I mean, I think of it this way.
We're going to egg you
know.
on. Okay. I had to say that. I wrote it down.
You know,
so
it's like when you. Oh, wow.
Okay, continue.
When you pass by a bookshop and you know, you look at, you know, the window, or you go inside the bookshop and you look at the table, and there's a lot of expertise that goes in there, you know, what to put in the shop window, what to put on the table. But very often it surrounds a particular theme. BISAC merchandising theme. And this is where we're asking the industry to put in your information in there, because it will help your title to be out front and center to the store bookseller, the online merchandiser, and it really helps to have it from a variety of publishers for this to work. So right now, go ahead.
Geraldine, along that lines, what are some of the obstacles you see for publishers to adopt the merchandising themes and for data recipients to take merchandising themes?
Well, because right now, since we don't, for BNN, we have millions of titles in our database, millions of titles for sale. When it comes to merchandising themes, we have yet to crack 6 digits. Mm-hmm. There's a big disparity there. With that disparity, the merchandisers or booksellers, there's not much for them to choose from, because what happens is we welcome the information and thank you to those who are sending it to us. However, because it hasn't reached critical mass, we're not having the variety that we need. It could be that one particular publisher decides, I'm gonna apply this to my entire catalog and send it to you. So if we were to use this information, you might get a lot of books, but it might be from very few publishers, not a lot of variety. And this is where it takes the entire village to send us that information to have it work. And for the publishers, you may ask, well, we have BISAC subjects, we have keywords. Why, oh why are you asking us for merchandising themes? And it goes along with what Michael was saying and how it is useful to, when there is no BISAC subject, but there is a BISAC merchandising theme that you can add on there. And from a retailer standpoint, who the end users on our side is, it's gonna be the online merchandiser, it's gonna be the store bookseller when they are trying to choose a particular feature for an event or for a holiday. What else do we have? Cultural heritage, that they have a variety of books that they can choose from. So yeah.
Thanks, Geraldine. Mm-hmm. Michael, a lot of publishers might complain about adopting them because they don't have the staff to assign them. So if a publisher was concerned about the amount of work that it would take to assign a merchandising theme, do you think that an internal mapping from BISAC would be possible?
You know, I knew you were going to ask that question, Connie. And I was going to originally answer it with just saying, well, sure, it looks like you can map some of them, and it looks like you can't map some other ones, but I'm sure most of it can be mapped. But then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do a mapping, because who doesn't like a good mapping? And so I went through the list, I just put it in Excel, I filtered it, by certain keywords. It took a couple of hours, so probably would take most people a week or so, I don't know. But, I didn't do the whole thing, but I did map all the cultural heritage, and then I just sort of put a yes or no next to ones that I thought could be mapped. And I got 95 out of 132 I thought could be mapped at 72%. Although, you might get different results. I didn't map Memorial Day because I thought, oh, we don't have a subject for Memorial Day, so how could you map Memorial Day? But you came up with a way. You just look for military. So that's really, now I got to change it. That is 96, 73%. So I'm sure, as you go through it, you could come up with stuff. The cultural heritage section worked the best, but some of the cultural heritage terms are essentially, I don't want to say repeated, but sort of echoed in some of the other sections. So there's cultural heritage, Hispanic and Latino, but there's also Hispanic Heritage Month, and there's topical Hispanic and Latino interest. So it's essentially the same mapping. So that could be done, just by using the same mapping. We have St. Patrick's Day, and we have cultural heritage Irish, et cetera. So a couple of things, if you want some pointers, be careful. We have see alsos sometimes for subjects. So for Southeast Asian languages, we say see also Vietnamese. So if you're filtering on Vietnamese, you don't want to map the Vietnamese code there because that's a see also, not the actual subject. Be careful if you're mapping, say, cultural heritage African and you just filter by Africa. You don't want to add the African American and Black ones. For China, you don't want the antiques and collectibles, porcelain in China, et cetera. I got for Cuba, don't add the scuba diving. You just have to be careful with when you're filtering, not to add things. But, if you, I would say don't start with the BISAC list and see what codes should be mapped to merchandising themes. Start with the merchandising themes list, which is more manageable, and say, oh, I wonder what I could map to that. And, it's not really that hard to find stuff. Just be careful of mapping to something that is not really meant to be mapped to. Like, if it's England, don't put New England in there. Also, I would like also to make a public service announcement, which is if you're doing anything in Excel with the codes, don't drag the codes down. Because it keeps adding a 1 to them, and then you end up sending bad codes to people. We get a lot of codes ending in like 001, 002, 003. So that's just public service if you're doing any kind of Excel kind of mapping.
I think the mapping would give publishers a really good start on getting the codes assigned, but just because something is mapped, one code is mapped to a subject, that doesn't mean that it can apply to many other subjects. You can have something fiction, horror, and it could be cultural heritage, Polish, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, if you're a sort of a specialty publisher, say a Christian publisher, you could map all your books to Christian interest. A lot of the codes are not mappable, like anniversary. Well, anniversary of what? It's hard. Some of them are not maybe well defined because we have graduation, and it's like, well, I don't know what level of graduation you're dealing with, but banned books, blank books, gift books, some of them you'll have to work a little harder at. But you could certainly get a good head start with the mapping. Like any mapping, it's a broad way of doing something, but I think it would get people started.
I mean, another thing to get people started is if you happen to be an academic publisher, an independent publisher, or a self-published, there's a code. You can apply it to every single one of your books with abandon. And that's, to get you going. And then filter down to the major codes, the holiday, the topical, and cultural heritage, and so on and so forth. the thing is to get started, really. You can start with your best-selling books and filter down from there. It doesn't have to be, oh, I have to apply this to my entire catalog and then share it. No, just start applying and start sharing.
And the codes are, rather than describing what the book is about, they're a little more subjective than that. If you want to assign Father's Day as a theme, you can put it on books about golf, about sports, about grilling, all things that dads kind of like to do. If you think that, oh, this would be a great gift for Father's Day, you can assign a code to that book. So Geraldine, what do you think it will take for senders and recipients to embrace the merchandising themes?
Send them a slice of cheesecake. I think they want to know that, for the publishers, they want to know that the effort that they're putting into this will be used in some way, shape, or form. And I can only speak for BNN. If you send it, we will use it. And that's, I don't know. I think what Michael said earlier about here's a quick way to get it done via internal mapping so that you don't have to think too much about it, and do that strategy so that you can start and send it over.
I think they would also gain traction if large online retailers started using them and displaying them on their website, and letting users have access to them to kind of find those titles. I think that would really motivate publishers to use them more.
Yeah.
We were saying before that it's sort of a catch 3.0 situation. It's like people are not going to send it in until they know people are going to accept it, and people are not building a system that can accept it because no one's using it.
Right.
So it just has to someone has to get the ball. We just have to start. I don't know what's going to happen first, but I think if people start sending them in, people will build their system so that they will be able to accept it. I think that might be the thing that has to happen first, because no one's going to do all the work and just for not getting anything. So,
Michael, can you talk a little about the differences between merchandising themes and keywords?
Well, keywords is kind of a free-for-all, wishful thinking, lying kind of thing. I don't know. People put things in keywords like bestsellers, or they put names of authors in keywords that are not the authors of the book. So Stephen King is a keyword in my book, but it's, which is fine. Keywords is just, I don't know if there are rules for keywords, but if there are, I don't think anyone really follows them. Because it's like, well, it's just this big long string. I could put anything in here, and hopefully someone will be searching and it'll somehow find my book. Merchandising themes is more of a controlled vocabulary. It's a way of highlighting who you think the book could be marketed to. And also, we haven't really come up with any rules for it yet. So you could do whatever you want. I guess I was saying in keywords, don't do whatever you want. But in merchandising themes, you could do whatever you want, but at least it's limited to a group here. And you're not going to add, cultural heritage French to a book that is Japanese related. There's no benefit to doing it. You're not trying to catch people searching for something that they're not really looking for. So I would say start using it now before we come up with best practices. Not that anyone follows the best practices.
I mean, yeah, I'm fully expecting to see, a particular book can apply to every single major BISAC theme that we have on here. And if it applies, you should code it that way. So that if it's, Father's Day coming up, Mother's Day coming up, if it applies, put it in there. If it's, I don't know, summer reading is coming up, apply the summer code on there. If it's a particular cultural heritage, I think you said, was it Polish?
We have
Put
Polish.
it in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 41 of these. When the good thing is that if we want to add more, it's just adding the one code. It's not adding
Right.
a lot of codes in the subject list. And of course, the subject list, there's no rule for how many codes could be there, but we don't really want it overwhelmed with this kind of thing where it just.
We don't want to add a lot of codes that we're not sure if people are going to use, or if, there'll be one title, one publisher publishes one title under that code. We want to kind of keep the list to those titles that, like those topics that are being published about.
And it helps, when we are doing the committee meetings, I sit there and I listen because it's mostly publishers. But there are times when it helps to, while they're having their discussions, for me to go and try to get a snapshot of what's being, like you said, how many titles is being published for a particular subject. To be like, oh, not a lot. Oh, too many. We need to break it down.
Right.
And it does help.
Yeah, and the breaking down is what I think is best, the work of the committee is best served as doing is, we look for a topic that has a lot of books and we decide, oh, we could come up with more specific subjects rather than, again, trying to make sure we have covered every cultural group or in every section. And I guess we mentioned it, merchandising themes it's recognized in Onyx. It's 22. If BISAC is 10, Onyx is code 22 in the code list. So it's there. It's ready to go. And again, we don't have any rules. You could do it for fiction and nonfiction, adult and juvenile, mix it all up, whatever.
I mean, think of it this way. For keywords, you have to sit there and think of keywords.
It's a good point.
With themes, it's a code. It's there. You just have to choose the code.
Mm-hmm. And it would help when certain words, perhaps like Hanukkah, can be spelled different ways, so not putting in every variation as your keyword.
So now who's going to use them? Sure. Oh, yeah, less people. That's great. We did a good job.
Are there any other points that you guys want to make about merchandising themes?
I hope that, at the beginning I was saying, last year to now, I've seen an increase in numbers, and I think I said we've yet to crack 6 digits. I hope 12 months from now, I will be saying we're close to 1 million. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be amazing.
Michael?
Yeah, what she said. No, of course. It would, it would just make the work of the committee easier, and it would be better for everyone to help sell their books. So don't worry about the committee stuff. That's just our intern. It's really for you guys to use so that it just makes the books more visible.
Yeah, I was thinking about one that we have, I think it's under topical, social media personalities. Social media personalities is not really a subject, could be what a book's about. Mostly will describe the author. So, those books could just be all over the place in terms of subject code. And if you assign the theme, social media personalities, then you could just search up in your database, show me books on social media personalities, and all those books of dissimilar subjects would, come together. Now how many people are going to start using that?
No one. That's great. We've totally scared. It's so easy. It's easier than the subjects. I mean, it's a shorter list, so.
It is.
Um,
132 to, what,
132.
5,500?
5727.
There you go.
I checked before. I don't want to give false information. I checked before I came.
Does anyone have questions on the merchandising themes?
Yay.
Thank you, and thanks for this information. I actually have two questions. The first question is, can you talk a little bit about the use case and value to the retailer and merchandiser for the publisher type themes? Because that feels different than cultural heritage, than the events, holiday, topical. Those feel very clear in terms of merchandising. But can you talk a little bit about the use case for publisher type? That's my first question. And then the second question is there any way that we can begin to track data around the adoption of the codes on the trading partner and retail side?
I'll take the first part of that question. For the publisher type, we can thank Angela Bull for those codes. She came to present to the committee, advocate for adding something like that. And that just helps. A lot of times, smaller independent publishers want their books to be pulled together, and sometimes, we might not know the count for that publisher. We might not know that, that publisher is independent. And so this allows you to bring together books that are from similar publishers. So if you could say, like, how many books on gardening can we get from independent publishers? And instead of searching up every single independent publisher and their counts, this way you can just tie together, those publishers and find your answer. Can you repeat the second part?
The second question was around tracking data for usage by trade partners and retailers. Is there a way for us to begin to do that? Because I think it will motivate more publishers if they can start to see the correlation between those two.
I don't think so, but
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I track, but it's not customer facing. And I don't have an answer for that I don't think it's, we're nowhere near even having that type of conversation because we simply want more data. And I think maybe in the future, if the question continues to come up, maybe the industry as a whole will, try to figure something out, but I don't see it being tracked for publishers at all, no. But similar to what you were saying before for the first question, the publisher type, yeah, I can see it being used. Again, I'm here to grab data. I just need more data so we can offer it to the business side so that they can run the business. And I don't know how they would choose to use it, but in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see, a bookseller say, yeah, I'm gonna have my table here, independent publishers, and show me the books that you have there that are tagged with this BISAC, that BISAC, this theme, that theme. And if we were to have, 50 different independent publishers that are sending us themes, they have a good chunk of books to work with. And this is, it's to complement the work that's already being done. I mean, merchandisers are marketing these books and they're using, they have books that they want to feature. But being able to say, oh, there's a lot more you can choose from. Here they are. And that's what the themes provide.
Chris?
I think one of the things we all love about bookstores is great merchandised tables, and they're always there, right? That's what makes you love the bookstore. So there are people merchandising all the time. Is there, I don't know what I'm stepping in by asking this, but is there any thought of not having this be a publisher-owned field? Let the merchandiser tell us what works. Let the brilliant merchandiser go in. Lots of other databases are crowdsourced. But when it's a burden to the publisher, I mean, in most publishers now, there's a online marketing department that is tagging titles and putting them out there for themes. Could it be something that got taken care of by the people who are doing this already?
I think if people had them, had a field in their database to put the codes, I think it would be, and no publishers were sending, I think that if people could store them, then yes, they should, that they could definitely add them, to the records.
I think it would be also a little less controversial than, why did you change my BISAC? People don't necessarily like it when they send data to someone and they see that the BISAC has been changed, but I think the merchandising theme, especially to people that are actually selling the books, that are bringing them together, seems to make sense that if they could come up with a way to group things. We always use the table analogy. It's not always a physical way of doing it, but yeah, the bookstore is coming up with a table, so they are essentially assigning merchandising themes, in their head or however they're doing it. And no one's complaining because their books are out there being sold. So
A lot of times if you go into a Barnes & Noble, come July, August, there's tables for summer reading from different schools in the area. And obviously every area that a Barnes & Noble is in is going to have different books for summer reading. And, a school might say, I'm reading this book and I need, just to keep it in stock. And I think that would really be at the bookstore level because, a publisher won't necessarily know what's on a summer reading list.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's to complement the work that's already being done. At the BNNs, the booksellers have autonomy when creating these tables, these features. And this is to support them even further. So it's like, oh, okay, let me see what's there. They already know what what the community needs for that bookstore. But it always helps to discover new books. And if having that code will let them see that it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know about this one. That's the whole point.
Take one more question.
So from a distributor perspective, any publisher who doesn't want to use this, to me, you're missing a huge opportunity. And I'm thinking back to like 15 years ago, Laura Dawson and I used to have a debate over metadata. She was a big advocate for metadata, was a huge factor. And I was always like, all right, but it's a standard. Once everybody uses it, it's a level playing field. Here we are 15 years later. You guys are not using it consistently. And those of you who are getting more out of it. This, to me, is if there's a publisher who doesn't see the value in this, that's an opportunity for you on the discoverability side, because the publishers with the better-known titles, they're going to get on those tables without this information. If you don't have those titles, or you have other authors who are getting overshadowed by those easy-to-find titles, this, to me, is a no-brainer thing to start using while the bigger publishers are like, we don't have the resources, we don't have to worry about that. Bookstores know where to put our books. This, to me, is an opportunity. This is a, early adopter opportunity to kind of get ahead of the curve. And if BNN is like, hey, send us, and then we'll use it, and we're a small distributor, we'd also use this information. The opportunity to get your books into curated tables, online collections and lists, the articles that, editorial coverage when they're looking for this information. How many times do you read the 10 best X and you know all 10 of those books? That's because they're using the obvious stuff. So to me, any publisher that's looking at this and like, I don't think it's worth the extra work, you're missing a huge opportunity.
You're hired as our
Yeah.
advocate.
That's a good summary.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just ran out of
I
time.
think, I think it was Phil that said, we just need to get everybody in the room to talk about it. And look, we have everybody in the room. So, think about them and what you would need to do to start adopting them.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any other questions, we'll be around for the lunch. And otherwise, if you don't find us, you can just email Brian, brian@bisg.org, and he'll direct your questions to us. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.